Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Horst-Jürgen Hollmann. I'm Key Account Manager with SAP Solutions at cenit, and I would like to give you our warm welcome together with my colleague Stefan Wiefel to our today's cenit webinar, the Workflow Engine cenitCONNECT APM, and I would like to give you a brief overview about our agenda today. The agenda consists of a quick overview about what we are going to show to you, an overview of the solution cenitCONNECT APM combined with a quick overview about that example of a change process which we have as an underlying example for our live demo, which then will give you a more in-depth view to the solution. So in order to give you that quick overview about that, what the solution cenitCONNECT APM represents, that is the first APM standing for Advanced Process Management. That means we would like to present to you an innovative solution for a process control using a direct integration to your data and objects which are within your SAP system. So that should support you for achieving a shorter process and cycle times in running your processes internally, give you an opportunity to collect and evaluate the relevant data for your processes, give you an opportunity for slim planning and approval processes, and of course that all supports the continuous improvement of your processes. The solution is scalable and thus very flexible, so it can be used and it can be maintained within the departments using the processes themselves, so you don't have to go back for each change to your IT department. It is insofar a type of semi-structured workflow engine giving you the flexible capabilities to set up, route your workflows and process control insofar. And it is a very shrink lean wrapped solution with small startup cost at a fixed price, which we can offer to you. So we would now like to enter into the way how to use that solution by simply giving you a live demonstration, and I would like to take this opportunity to hand over to my colleague Stefan Wiefel, who will run you through that example of such a process. So, if you please take over.
Okay, a very warm welcome from my side. My name is Stefan Wiefel. I'm Solution Manager for our CAD integration. In this case, I'm also doing pre-sales. And yeah, I'm the one who will show you how easy it is to create a workflow inside our advanced process management. For this example, of course, we have prepared something, and I would like to give you just a short overview about the process itself. So we're using more or less a standard process with 3 phases. So the engineering change request, second phase with the engineering change implementation, and the third phase, manufacturing change implementation for our scenario. This engineering change management workflow is just an example. So as you see on the left side, there's a lot of possibilities creating processes. It doesn't have to be something for the engineering change management. It could also be for document approval, master data management, or whatever you can imagine that has something to do with the process. So, but today, the workflow we will create, or I will create for you, is just this little example on the right side of the screen. So we have this engineering change implementation phase, but we will skip this. I will tell you more about it in a second. And in the implementation phase, we will do the design change and the approved design as workflow tasks. And we will, of course, enhance it with some intelligence that if the approver says, no, it's not okay, that it will go automatically back to the design change so that the designer can do the work again and in the right way, hopefully this time. And If the approver says it's okay, then the manufacturing change implementation phase should start. That's all. We will do. So for the request phase, just imagine we have a fast track. So something, a change that is important, we don't have to talk about if we want to do the change or not. We have to do the change. So the request phase can just be skipped, and we want to go to the implementation phase. But because this request phase is perhaps needed for some other processes, we cannot just delete it. So we will create a task that will automatically skip this phase, start the implementation phase, and create a change master for the implementation phase that the designer can use the change management of SAP automatically. In the engineering change implementation phase, we will create two tasks. One for the designer, we will call it design task, and one for the approver, we will call it design approval task. Those two tasks will also get some enhancement. For the designer, we will give him some help to do the job. So we will note down some information that perhaps he needs. And for the approval task, of course, we have to put in some intelligence. Let's say if we have a negative approval, it should go back to the designer. If it's a positive approval, the next phase, the manufacturing change implementation phase, should start. So the manufacturing change implementation phase, we will do nothing. I've prepared a template for this one. So in our case, we will just focus on the first two phases, the ECR and the ECI phase. Okay, so I will just switch to SAP. This is the PLM7 Web UI. And now from the point of view of the one who has to create new templates, it's quite simple. You click on cenitCONNECT APM. You have administration, and there you have an own-input template administration. There you can administer all the templates you've ever created. And if you want to create a new one, just click on Create Template. Hyperlink technology. And first you will be asked for which kind of process you want to create a template. In our case, it's the engineering change management. I just click on Continue, and it asks me to give a name for this template. Everything with this star in front of is a mandatory field. So I just call it Webinar APM, and today it's the 24th of September. And template to show how easy it is to create one. So I will show you, you don't have to have any program skills, it's just clicking, let's say. So this template should of course be active, and it should be a workflow template. You could also have team templates, but we will just create a workflow template. Click on the next, and you will be guided to the finish step. You can have an overview and say, yeah, it's fine. Click on finish. We go to the process, and here we see the three phases our ECM process has. The engineering change request, implementation phase, and the implementation phase for manufacturing. We want to skip the engineering phase, the engineering change request phase. We don't need it. Therefore, I click on change workflow, and I get here some commands, like perhaps you know it from Excel, add sequential task, add parallel task. In our case, we will use the sequential task. But before we will do this, we have to load a team template. So I will not show you today how to create a team template. It's as easy as a workflow template, but because each task of a workflow needs to have a guy or a team who should do this, we will just load us the standard team template, and you will see now we have a lot of teams we can use for our tasks in the process. So going back, change workflow, and we will add the sequential task. In our case, because this phase should automatically be skipped, no one should have to done anything in this phase, we choose background task. A background task is done by the system fully automatically. And we will call it start ECI phase automatically. It's just a name. At this moment, there's no intelligence inside this task. We will put this later. We will just now create our workflow task. Going to the engineering change implementation, remember there we need two tasks. We need the approved design and the design change in front. So these two tasks I will now create here. Again, add a sequential task. Because this has to do by a designer, so a real person, nothing that can be done by the system, we will just create a standard task and give it a name, let's say, call it design change. The designer has 24 hours to finish the job. Of course, we can change this one. And we have to add an agent. So who is responsible to do this task? Just click on add, and you can choose between a team and a user. So a user would be a single person. A team consists, of course, of several persons, and depending on who is able to do it, this guy can then take this task. So we search for the teams. These are the teams are just imported via this team template, and of course the design team should work on this. And how do they get the information that there's something to do? You can see it in SAP, but of course you can also send emails to the people. Is it complicated? No. Just go to notification and say, yeah, we want to inform them via email. And just choose a template. And the nice thing is you already see here a preview of the email that will be sent when this task has to be done. That's all. Design change. To put the next task underneath it, the approval, just click on this one and again add sequential task. And here we'll do the same, but call it design approval. Again, put in a team who is responsible for this task. And we have a CAD release team. Choose this one. And also this team should be informed during via an email. The difference here is if we have this approval phase, someone has to say yes or no. It's approved or it's not approved. So we have to set also the evaluation and say to approval. And now this task automatically is a task that has to be said yes, approved, or no, it's not approved. And you can see this also on this little icon up here. So, but until now, it's just plain text task, no intelligence in it. And what we want to do is say this background task that it please should change the workflow phase, should start the engineering change implementation, the second phase, and we want to create a change master for the designer automatically. How to do this? Normally you would need some program skills or programming skills, not with engineering, with advanced process management. Just go to the phase, a right mouse click on the task, and we have some, they're called execute advisor. These are little programs helping you doing intelligent stuff. And they come with APM. So there is a bunch of so-called execute advisors we will deliver when you have APM. So, and for example, there is one called Start Workflow in Phase. Again here, just click on it, and here you have to say, okay, status, if it's accepted and completed, then you want to change or start a different workflow. If something happens, what do you want to do? Want to continue or want to stop the process and check why it's not working? And the thing you have to give this execute advisor the information which phase should be started. In our case, the engineering change implementation phase. So you can search for it, click on it, that's all. Now, if this background task is completed, it will automatically start the next phase. Let's say we want to have this second phase also as the actual phase when we start when we go into a process, we want to have that this phase is the one we see first. So we have to change it up here. Therefore, we have the project change phase execute advisor. Also, when it's completed, you can check it. I'm sure nothing goes wrong. Our source phase is the request phase, and it should be switched to the target phase, which is our engineering change implementation phase, TO2. So, and the last one we want to do is automatically create a change master for the ECI phase. This we find under the engineering change master. Again, just a click, create engineering change master. Status, if it's completed. Again, you can check it. And that's all. Okay. Save it. And you see that this task has some, this little helping tools. See it on this little icon in here. They're called execute advisor. Okay, so change workflow phase we've done. We want to start a new phase. We have done this with an execute advisor. And we have created, or we will create, a new change master when the ECI phase becomes active. We've done this. In the ECI phase, we have to do some tasks. In the design task, we want to give the designer additional help to fulfill the job. So, again, change to the change implementation phase. Right mouse click on the design change, and we have here a checklist entry. And here we can add several checklist items. And perhaps one might be everything checked in. Please be sure that all CID documents are checked in SAP. Just to remind him when he finished it that everything is checked in and not open in his CAD system. You can leave it as just information, or you can say it should be something that is required. Then the designer has to click and say, yeah, I've done this. So, and of course, you can add several of these hints to this one. Say OK, and you can see it on this icon. The checklist icon is now available for this design change task. I just save it. And the last thing we have to do is, for the negative approval, give the work back to the designer, and if it's positive, start the MCA phase. So what I like to do is, if the approver says, no, it's not okay, then I would like to insert a template. And in our case, I want to insert this template. So if the designer says, no, it's not approved, then please insert this ECI template, design change, design approval we just created. Just add it underneath. To do this, right mouse click, it's a decision. And there we have the check approval. So what we want to do is if it's completed, then you have to check it. And the approval status is not approved. If it's not approved, please insert this template. And you see this is our template we just created, and I just want to insert this one again. So it's possible to link on the same template inside the template. Here we have our template. I click it, and I say this should be in the second phase B insert, so the second implementation. That's all. Okay. And there was the last thing, if everything is okay, start the next phase. Same thing we did in the engineering change request phase. So I again go to the execute advisor and say, start workflow and phase. Same thing we did the one. If it's completed, if the one says approved, and yeah, it's okay, you can check it. And start the phase. If you already know it, you can directly type it in. PO3. Fine. And please change the process phase like before. If it's completed, if it's approved, only if it's approved, check it. Search phase is then the second phase, and the target phase is the third one. Okay. Save it. That's all. So now it's 20 minutes, 15 minutes for this, of course, small workflow, but this workflow with intelligence in it without any programming. Okay, so the next thing is I just want to show you how this workflow we just created looks then in a real process. So therefore, just imagine, you know, a guy who wants to create a new process. I just go to process, create a process. So now that's not a template, it's now a real process step. And I call it test the template. Webinar APM. If I create something new, I will also be guided through the steps of creating a new process. And you see here, the engineering change request and implementation phase is empty. There I will put in our just created templates. For the manufacturing change implementation, we already have a standard template for this one. So just let me finish this one. Go to the process tab, and of course it is empty. So therefore, I will just insert our created template. Here it is, webinar APM. The request phase, okay, it's in. And the same thing I do now for the implementation phase. And of course, this is just for the testing now. Of course, you can set this will come automatically when you choose specific tasks. So if you need more information about this, let us know. This is now just for the testing. Same template, but now we have the second phase. Okay, here it is, what we did. Save it. And now we will go and start the process. Therefore, you have to click on the start process. Just keep an eye on the change number. It's now empty. If everything works fine, it should give us a change number because we set this background task to create a change master. And it should change the phase not to be in change request, but in the implementation phase. That's what we told via this execute advisor in the first phase. So let's see if I've done everything correct. I click on start process. And you see it. Our execute advisor created a change number, and the active phase is now the implementation phase. So if I have a look at the process, you see we directly switch to the implementation phase. Just have a look at the change request phase, because this is done automatically. It was a background task with all the help from our execute advisors. So we start directly with the implementation phase, and the designer is active. The designer now gets also an email. So we can have a look. You see, I just got it a minute ago. Here's the email information to the designer. And the nice thing is I could click on this link and it will bring me directly to the SAP. Okay, so I will finish the design change. I just click on it. I get a nice overview about everything I have to do inside. I click on accept. And what I get here is also my checklist. And if I highlight it, here I get the information. Of course, I should not forget to check everything in. Perfect. So just imagine I've done all cut work, go back, and I say, yeah, I've done it, and I complete it. That's the thing one has to do, close, and now automatically the next task is active, the approval. Let's have a look at the approval. In the approval, we said the system, we need a decision. Do we want me to accept it or not, to approve it or not? And therefore, we have here another field, and here I can say approved or not approved. And I just will say not approved. Whatever drawing is missing. And if everything is correct, it should bring me back to the design change and design approval phase again. Task. It should insert these two tasks again underneath it, so that the designer has again his task to do. So let's see if this is working. Not approved, and I say complete. Close it, come to my process, and you see, it just inserts this template again, and now the design change is again active. Again, an email to the designer is sent, and this goes on. In the other case, if I would say the design approval here is approved, then it would, of course, start the manufacturing phase. So, this simple is it to create a workflow. And again, all these execute advisor and helping stuff I showed you is coming with a standard. Of course, you can enhance them with your own, but what you see in this demo is standard. Okay, I hope you liked what you see. So if there are questions or you want to know more about it, just let us know. Okay, I just will give back the microphone to Horst-Jürgen Hollmann. Okay, Horst-Jürgen, you're now on the phone again.
Yes, I think if you see that live demonstration, we try to give you an overview of the solution and how easy it is to create workflows out of your departments using that solution, and how easy you can set up also a changed process, because very often it appears that you have a template-based way how to run your processes through your company, but when running the process, there have to be done small adaptations due to special events within the process route. So with that tool, you can very easily and template-based set up your own processes, add documents, add information to these processes, and thus this gives you the opportunity to basically have even the process documentation in the tool itself. Every process has an own number when it is performed, so also after half a year or after 3 years you can come back to that process which you performed 3 years ago and see why you had taken that and these decisions over here. So that even gives you much more than only to route this process forwardly through your system. It also sets up step-by-step a base of your intellectual property, why you did what, when. So you should have this in your mind when you think of giving more automation and more documentation to your processes, and we'll be happy to get your questions. If you have them, simply give them to myself, to Stefan Wiefel, or to Alexander Wolf, whom you had at the invitation of our web seminar. And I thank you very much at this moment for your attention, and I hope that you could give you some insight in how easy it is to set up SAP-based workflows with this flexible solution.